In the world of warfare, there's a timeless rule, a sort of military gospel that professionals swear by. It states that a trained, disciplined army, with its superior numbers, advanced artillery, and formal training, will always crush irregular fighters. Think about it. Uniformed soldiers in neat formations versus scattered combatants with no heavy weapons. It seems like a foregone conclusion. This very belief was the bedrock of American military doctrine in the early 19th century. Why wouldn't it be? The United States Army had a proven track record. They had faced down European powers, successfully suppressed rebellions, and marched across vast territories, achieving one predictable victory after another. This wasn't just a quiet confidence held by a few generals. It was an echo that reverberated through the halls of power. Senior officers, influential politicians in Washington, D.C., and even the most respected newspaper editors all sang the same tune. They assured the public, and themselves, that any form of native resistance was ultimately doomed. It could never withstand a direct, head-on confrontation with the might of regular, professional troops. The logic seemed uncheckable. How could a loosely organized group possibly stand against a modern military machine? When attention turned towards Florida, this confidence hardened into something closer to arrogance. In official reports and correspondence, the Seminole people were dismissed with almost casual contempt. They were described as scattered, primitive, and utterly incapable of waging any kind of sustained, meaningful warfare against trained American soldiers. The very idea was seen as laughable. They were viewed not as a nation to be negotiated with, but as a nuisance to be swept aside. The entire strategy was built on this profound underestimation. And what about the terrain? The infamous swamps of Florida, a labyrinth of water, mud, and dense vegetation, were certainly seen as unpleasant. No one was looking forward to wading through them. But were they considered a serious obstacle? Absolutely not. American officers saw them as just another challenge to be managed, another variable in the equation of war. They put their faith in what they knew, their accurate maps, their reliable supply columns snaking behind the main force, and their rigid, disciplined marching formations that had served them so well on other battlefields. Victory, they believed, was not just likely, it was inevitable. It was simply a matter of logistics and execution. This deeply ingrained rule, this absolute certainty in their own superiority, reached its peak. Troops were dispatched south in the year 1835. Their orders were clear and uncompromising. Enforce the removal treaties that had been signed and put a final, decisive end to all Seminole resistance. There was no room for doubt in the minds of the officers leading this campaign. They were convinced that their army's unwavering discipline would conquer any challenge the Florida wilderness could throw at them. They believed their overwhelming firepower would instantly shatter any surprise ambush the Seminole might attempt. And above all, they were certain that a simple show of force, of sheer military intimidation, would be enough to break the Seminole will to fight. The plan was set, the troops were marching. The outcome was considered a foregone conclusion. The might of the United States Army was about to descend upon a scattered and primitive people to enforce the will of a nation. History, it seemed, was about to write another predictable chapter of conquest. But history has a funny way of surprising us. And in the dense, humid swamps of Florida, in the cold of December 1835, a single, shocking moment was about to happen. A moment that would not just challenge this time-honored rule of warfare, but shatter that belief in American military invincibility forever. The predictable story they thought they were writing was about to take a very, very different turn. My name is Lieutenant Richard H.K. Call. I am a product of the United States Army, forged on the frontier where conflict is as constant as the sunrise. I've always believed in the Army's way. Doctrine, discipline, obedience, these are not just words to me. They are the pillars that have held up my world and rewarded my service. I trust in formations, in clear orders, and in the simple, powerful idea that what you can see, you can control. Experience has taught me to recognize danger, but my training has taught me to trust the system that has always kept it at bay. Now, it is 1835. The political winds from Washington are blowing hard, carrying with them a mandate that is as clear as it is relentless. The native populations must be moved. All of them. West of the Mississippi, Florida has become the proving ground, the place where the will of the federal government will either bend the frontier or break upon it. The Seminole people, however, are not bending. They refuse to leave. It's not because they are ignorant of American power. It's because they understand this land, its swamps, its forests, its hidden paths in a way we never could. They are a part of it, and it is a part of them. And so, we march. I am with Major Francis Dade and over 100 men. Our objective is Fort King, a journey that will take us deep into the heart of Seminole country. The official word is that the route is secure. Command believes Seminole resistance as a ghost, already vanquished by signed treaties and the mere threat of our military might. We are told there is nothing to fear. Our column stretches long and thin through the open pine forests. The supply wagons, heavy with our provisions, grind through the sandy soil, slowing our pace to a crawl. The Florida sun beats down. Relentless, we sweat in our thick wool uniforms, clothing designed for colder climates. Not this humid wilderness. Each step is a labor, our boots sinking into the soft sand. The rhythmic tramp of our march a lonely sound in the vast, quiet landscape. Despite the reassurances from command, a sense of unease gnaws at me. It's in the air. In the unnatural silence of the woods, the birds seem to have fled. The usual chorus of insects has fallen quiet. It feels like the entire world is holding its breath, watching us. My training screams that danger is something you see an approaching line of enemy soldiers, a fortified position. Danger is loud and obvious, but this silence, this is different. It's a heavy, oppressive quiet that feels more threatening than any battle cry. Our doctrine offers no protocol for fighting an enemy you cannot see, for confronting a danger that hides in the stillness. We march in a column of twos, a perfect formation for a parade ground, but here, in this endless expanse of pine and palmetto, it feels dangerously exposed. The formation is rigid, designed for European-style warfare on open fields where visibility is key. Here, it transforms our strength into a vulnerability. We are a long, slow-moving target, easily flanked, easily ambushed. The dense undergrowth on either side of the narrow road could hide an entire army, and we would never know until it was too late. I look at the men around me. Many are young, fresh-faced recruits who have never seen combat. Their faith in Major Dade, in the army, is absolute. They march with a confidence born of ignorance. Their jokes and casual conversations are stark contrast to the tightening knot in my stomach. They believe, as we have all been taught to believe, that our numbers, our discipline, and our muskets make us invincible. They see the empty forest and believe it is safe. I see the empty forest and see 1,000 places to hide. Major Dade himself seems unconcerned. He rides at the head of the column, a figure of confidence and authority. He's a veteran, a man of experience. Yet he too seems to subscribe to the belief that the Seminole threat has been neutralized. He occasionally consults his map, as if this wild, untamed land could be neatly contained within its lines and symbols. His certainty should be reassuring, but it only deepens my anxiety. Are we all blind? Or am I the only one who feels the eyes on our backs? My duty is to my men, to maintain discipline and ensure they are ready for whatever comes. But how do you prepare men for a battle they have been trained to believe will never happen? How do you protect a column that is designed to be indefensible in this terrain? I am caught between the rigid certainty of our doctrine and the chilling uncertainty of my own instincts. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow that flickers at the edge of my vision, sends a jolt through me. I scan the trees, searching for a sign, a glint of metal, a human form. But there is nothing. Only the pines, standing like silent, indifferent sentinels. We are marching deeper and deeper into a trap. I can feel it. It is a strategic nightmare, a violation of every sensible rule of warfare. We are an island of order in a sea of chaos, and the tide is rising. Our belief in our own superiority has become our greatest weakness. We assume the Seminole will fight like us, think like us, and fear what we command them to fear. It is a fatal miscalculation. They will not meet us on an open field. They will fight on their terms, in their land, using the very environment as their most powerful weapon. I want to voice my concerns, to suggest we send out more flankers, to break formation and advance in a more defensible posture. But to do so would be to question the major, to question the entire doctrine of the U.S. Army. It would be seen as a sign of fear, of insubordination. And so I hold my tongue, my unease a bitter taste in my mouth. I am a lieutenant. I follow orders. It is what I have always done. The sun climbs higher, the heat becoming more oppressive. The men are growing weary, their steps heavier, their talk fading into a tired silence that almost matches the woods around us. The slow, rhythmic squeak of the wagon wheels is the only constant sound. It is a monotonous, hypnotic rhythm, lulling us into a false sense of security. Counting down the seconds to a destiny we are marching toward with our eyes wide open, yet completely blind. My hand rests on the hilt of my sword, a useless piece of steel against a phantom enemy. I am an officer in the United States Army, marching to a battle I was never trained to fight, leading men I cannot protect. And the silence continues. The year is 1835. The Florida air hangs thick and heavy, a humid blanket that promises both life and decay. You are a soldier, part of a column of 107 men under the command of Major Francis L. Dade. Your mission, to reinforce Fort King. Deep in Seminole territory, the march has been quiet, almost unnervingly so. The only sounds are the rhythmic tramp of boots on sandy soil, the creak of leather, and the occasional nervous cough. Your musket feels heavy on your shoulder, a familiar ache that's become a constant companion. Your eyes dart towards the dense wall of palmetto and pine that lines the road. Military doctrine says the Seminole won't attack a disciplined column in the open. But something in your gut, a primal instinct honed by an unseen wilderness, whispers a different story. It tells you that you are being watched. The morning sun climbs higher, filtering through the cypress trees. It's around 9:30. Without warning, the world explodes. A single rifle shot, sharp and clear, cracks the morning silence. It's a signal. Immediately, a deafening volley erupts from the trees, a storm of lead that tears through your ranks. You see Major Dade thrown from his horse before he can even utter a command, his body riddled with bullets. He's the first to fall. The disciplined column, who part of just moments ago disintegrates into chaos. Men scream, dropping to the ground as the invisible enemy fires with terrifying precision. The Seminole warriors, concealed perfectly behind the palmetto scrub, have turned the open road into a death trap. You try to shout orders, to rally the men, but your voice is lost in the cacophony of gunfire and cries of pain. Smoke from black powder fills the air, a thick, acrid fog that stings your eyes and obscures your vision. Where are they? You can't see a single enemy fighter. They are ghosts, firing from concealed positions, their marksmanship brutally effective. In just the first few minutes, nearly half of your comrades are either dead or writhing in agony on the ground. The deeply ingrained belief in American military superiority, the confidence that carried you this far, shatters completely. It's been replaced by raw, primal fear. Form a line, return fire, you yell, your throat raw. A few men, driven by training and sheer desperation, manage to obey. They fire blindly into the trees, their shots unaimed, their panic palpable. It's useless. The Seminole fire in disciplined waves, reloading methodically under cover, while your men struggle to find a single target. It's a style of warfare you've never encountered. They don't stand in neat lines on an open field. They use the land, becoming one with it. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow, feels like a threat. The minutes feel like hours. The screams of the wounded are a constant, harrowing chorus. You check your ammunition pouch. It's getting dangerously low. The standard battlefield tactics you learned are worthless here. How do you fight an enemy that refuses to show itself? Slowly, the intense firing begins to subside. A strange, eerie silence descends upon the battlefield, broken only by the groans of the dying. A sliver of hope flickers within you. Is it over? Have they retreated? But this silence is more terrifying than the noise. It feels heavy, pregnant with menace. You know they are still out there, watching, waiting. During this lull, the Seminole warriors move in closer, advancing silently through the undergrowth, their movements as fluid and quiet as the swamp water itself. They are closing the circle. Then, the second volley hits. It's even more devastating than the first. It's a close-range massacre, mowing down the few soldiers still standing. A searing pain rips through your leg, and you collapse to the ground. The world spins, but you remain conscious, a helpless spectator to the final, brutal moments of the fight. The Seminole warriors finally emerge from their cover, moving among the fallen. Your training tells you to fight, to resist, but your body won't obey. You understand with chilling clarity that this is no longer about victory. It's not even about survival. It's about the finality of defeat. The firing stops for good. The air is thick with the smell of gunpowder and blood. More than 100 of your fellow soldiers lie dead or dying around you. Of your column, only a handful will survive, wounded and left for dead. The Seminole, their objective achieved, retrieve the weapons of the fallen and melt back into the swamp, as silently as they appeared. There will be no pursuit. There is no one left to give the order. This event, the Dade Massacre, would ignite the longest and costliest Indian war in American history. It's a story of tactical brilliance, desperate courage, and the clash of two worlds. It is a piece of forgotten history that shaped a nation. These stories of sacrifice, of tactics, and of the human cost of conflict are often lost to time. They are chapters of our shared past that deserve to be remembered, not just as dates and battles, but as human experiences. The destruction of Major Dade's command sent a shockwave through Washington. Military planners, who had confidently predicted a swift and easy victory, were forced to confront a reality they had actively denied. The neatly drawn maps and textbook strategies that worked on European battlefields were utterly useless in the swamps and hammocks of Florida. The American High Command had to accept a bitter truth. Their traditional formations, their long and vulnerable supply lines, and their very symbols of authority meant nothing in this new kind of war. The Seminole warriors, masters of their terrain, had demonstrated that conventional military power could be swallowed by the landscape itself. What was supposed to be a brief police action quickly spiraled into a grueling 7-year conflict. The Second Seminole War became a quagmire, a relentless drain on the nation's resources, its morale, and its political credibility. The cost was staggering. Year after year, money and men disappeared into the Florida wilderness with little to show for it. The war became deeply unpopular, a political nightmare for presidents, and a source of growing frustration for the American public. The Seminole, fighting for their homes and their freedom, proved to be one of the most formidable and resilient indigenous forces the United States had ever faced. Faced with repeated defeats and mounting casualties, the United States Army was forced to evolve. The old ways were failing, and a new approach was desperately needed. The rigid lines of infantrymen marching in formation were replaced by smaller, more flexible units. The Army began to develop new tactics, learning from their enemy. They started using scouts, often other Native Americans or local woodsmen who understood the terrain. Irregular patrols, moving stealthily through the swamps, replaced the noisy, predictable columns of the past. It was a painful and slow process of adaptation, a tacit admission that the Seminole had rewritten the rules of war. This was a humbling experience for an army and a nation accustomed to the idea of its own effortless dominance. The assumption that American military might was inherently superior was shattered. They were compelled to learn from the very people they sought to conquer, adopting guerrilla-style tactics to fight a guerrilla war. This shift represented more than just a changed military strategy. It was a fundamental crack in the foundation of American exceptionalism. The Seminole had forced their powerful adversary to abandon its arrogance and accept that in this new kind of warfare, the enemy held the advantage. The human cost of this conflict was immense, a tragedy measured in thousands of lives lost on both sides. For every American soldier who fell in battle or succumbed to disease in the fever-ridden swamps, there was a Seminole warrior, woman, or child who died defending their ancestral lands. Families were shattered, communities were destroyed, and a legacy of bitterness was sown. This was a war born of arrogance, a conflict fueled by the relentless pressure for land and the refusal to acknowledge the humanity and rights of the Seminole people. The scars of this war would run deep, affecting generations to come. Amidst the chaos and carnage of the ambush on Dade's column, a few men miraculously survived. One of them was Lieutenant Richard H.K. Call. He carried the horrific memories of that day, the sudden attack, the futility of their training, the loss of his comrades with him for the rest of his life. The lessons learned in that bloody encounter, where doctrine failed so spectacularly, would shape his perspective and later influence his political career. The day the rules of war were rewritten in a Florida swamp was a day he would never forget, a constant reminder of the cost of underestimating an opponent. Ultimately, the fierce and determined Seminole resistance achieved what many thought impossible. While they could not win the war in a conventional sense, they delayed their forced removal 4 years, longer than any other tribe east of the Mississippi. Their struggle forced the United States to confront the moral and strategic limits of its own power. It was a stark lesson that military force alone cannot solve every problem, and that the will of a people fighting for their existence is a power in itself. The Seminole War stands as a powerful testament to the high price of expansion and the enduring spirit of resistance. This story matters today. It's a powerful reminder that certainty, especially the certainty of the powerful, can be a blinding force. It shows how even the strongest institutions can be brought to their knees when they refuse to see the world as it is, rather than how they wish it to be. The lessons from the Florida swamps about arrogance, adaptation, and the true cost of conflict are as relevant now as they were nearly 200 years ago. It's a warning against the dangers of hubris that resonates through history. If this story moved you, please take a moment to click the like button. It truly helps us keep this kind of history alive and ensures these stories reach a wider audience. We are dedicated to rescuing these forgotten narratives from the dusty archives of the past, and we invite you to subscribe and join our community of history lovers. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you have a family member who has served in the military, please feel free to share. Thank you for watching, and thank you for ensuring that Richard H.K. Call and the more than 100 men of Dade's command are not forgotten. History only survives when we choose to remember it.